Hey everyone, Riley and Matthew now back again with another session. Great interview we're going to have, I'm sure, now with Gabby Franco. And most folks probably recognize Gabby because of her time spent on Top Shot. That's where I first became acquainted with Gabby. And Gabby is not only probably our best looking guest we've had so far, but she actually is a phenomenal shooter. And also author of the book Troubleshooting. We got this is a part of a series of books.
Yes, well, I haven't done yet the rest one.
Mastering your pistol marksmanship, and so you're going to have some more coming.
Yes. Well, the interesting thing about that book and the way I designed it, as you see, is very small. It's only 100 pages, because my goal is that a book that people go over that book over and over and over again. Haven't it happened to you that sometimes you read a book and then you read it again and you're like, I don't remember this part of the book? And the other thing is that shooting itself, the technique is the same. If you look at any other book about shooting, the technique, we talk about the same way how we align the sights, how we press the trigger. So what makes the difference? What makes the difference between shooting good or bad is the way we think. Mm-hmm. So I pretty much talk about those things and the way I apply the technique, but how our mind process a little bit of how we apply the technique.
Yeah.
So, and I use analogies to make people understand those things. Mm-hmm. And I think they're very important to have that correlation between, okay, I understand that I do this in my daily life, but if I apply the same analogy to shooting, hey, it works.
Right.
So that's one of the things that's why I designed the book. And I have had so many people, writing me back and sending me messages how the book, even one little thing is just like, oh my God, this is all I needed.
Right. Yeah.
And you know what? That is super valuable. At the end of the day, that is what I wrote the book.
Yeah.
There's more like a shooting manual. Now in the book, you'll find not only the shooting techniques, you'll find exercises as long the book, in the way that, okay, you finish this portion, let's say the body stance and stuff, and then you have a few exercises that will help you go through that, and then sight alignment, trigger control, and after each one you have a set of few exercises that are specifically for that particular part of the technique.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Can you give us maybe a little taste of what one might find in the book? What is an example of one thing that someone has sent you an email or maybe saw you at a show and they've told you, Gabby, this one thing, just changed my life as it relates to shooting? Can you give us an example?
There are actually so many things, and everybody have a different perception of what they read, how they internalize it. But I think that one of the things that one of the analogies I use, for instance, is how to press the trigger. People tell you all the time you have to press the trigger smooth. But what is smooth for you? What is smooth for you?
Exactly.
So for instance, an analogy I use there is like when you're driving. Imagine you're driving, you're on the highway, you're about to incorporate yourself in the highway, right? So once you get in there, you are pressing the accelerator, and you go in that constant movement. And once you get in the highway with other vehicles, you keep pressing that the gas pedal non-stop. And even when you get to the desired speed, you don't just release it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You keep going, even if you pass a little bit, you keep going. So the same thing it is. What happens is some people press the trigger, just go boom.
Yeah.
How do you accelerate? Do you just go boom? Put your foot on the gas pedal? You don't. You go in a smooth, constant way until you get to the speed that you need. So basically, that's what I do. You see? So that's a very easy way to understand the technique, and you're like, oh, I can relate to it, and now I get it. You see? So basically, that's how I do the technique.
That's genius.
Yeah, actually, that's a really great way of explaining it. So when she says analogy, go ahead.
And not only that, you find exercises that you do at the range, but most of the way I explain exercises about the technique is without even going to the range. So you have certain exercises that you can actually do at home as you're reading it, and then you're going to be like, okay, that actually makes sense. So basically the book is about making sense to something that you already know.
Yeah.
People know how to, that you need to look at the front sight, and yet people don't do it.
Yep.
For one reason, is because how our brain processes that information, what is the logical for our brain to do, but yet to the technique, it may not be the right way to do it. Like, for instance, when you're aiming, most people look at the target instead of the sights. How many times people tell them, look at your front sight, look at your front sight.
Right.
But when you read the explanations and the logical exercises that I give in my book, you're like, okay, well, that makes sense.
Boy, she's a really good saleswoman for her book. I'm like, okay, clearly there's something in the book Troubleshooting that I'm missing out on. I got to go read the book. So,
you know what else I like about the book is that you kept it short. And when things get too long, they become intimidating, or people don't even want to start reading it. Right? It's like it's overpowering. Right? So you condense it into sections, which is really good, and you can work on certain things without being overwhelmed.
And the main goal is that I didn't want the book to be on a bookshelf.
Yeah.
Right?
I want that to be in your range bag.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, so you go to shooting classes, right? You have a coach. You probably can't pay every time you go to the range for a coach to be there with you, but at least you have something that you can refer to. And I'm a true believer of going to a process of elimination. In order to find what the problem is, instead of, I'm not shooting good, I'm done with this, and that's it. No, find what is. Let's go through it and improve your shooting.
That's wonderful. So, where can people get the book? Is there a price on there? What does this cost?
Yes, you can go to my website, gabbyfranco.com, and you can find it there. Or you can go to amazon.com, and you're going to find it there. I have it actually on my website. It's $19.99. On Amazon, I think, Amazon changes the prices. But it's going to be between $19 to $26.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
around $20 or so. Which is much cheaper than even a half hour of a really good, qualified instructor's time.
Oh, yeah.
It is, and let me tell you something. That doesn't necessarily, replace instruction from. But once you have the foundations well ingrained, like they are here, that no matter what, you know them, then you can take a lot more advantage of other instructing, because you're not worried about, I'm not hitting, oh my God, I'm shooting bad. No, you are actually taking care of the rest, the tactics, the techniques, other things that involve into shooting. So I think that's more important. Most people think, so what is the difference between a very good shooter and a very good shooter? And it's basically they have they do the techniques more effectively than most people.
Yeah.
Consistency.
Yes. They have perfected the technique and they have done it consistently good.
Yep.
There's not really secret. I did Olympic shooting for 10 years. We don't move. The target doesn't move. And I had a coach next to me, and most Olympic shooters have a coach next to them for years, every single day. And yet it's hard to shoot the bullseye over and over again. And some people say, I know how to shoot. I don't need more instruction. I'm like, well, that's the reason why you haven't gone a step further. So I think if we think, how can I be the best in any situation, you're going to be better off, whether it's competition, self-defense, tactical, whatever it is.
Yep.
You strive to be the best at training, because when the tests come, a lot of different elements are going to come along with it, and you need to be ready for that.
Wow. We'll just shift gears just a little bit here. You're from Venezuela.
Yes.
Totally different country than the United States of America. Different leadership, different laws, different rights, even.
Yes.
So I know you're really passionate about the Second Amendment. I've seen some things that you post on social media. What do you want to say to, I guess, anybody about your passion that is the Second Amendment? Why you're passionate about it? What does it mean to you?
Well, I think the most important thing is that I didn't grow up with it.
Yeah.
I didn't know that that could be a right to own and bear arms, to be a right to really actually kind of defend yourself. Where in our countries, when you defend yourself, you can actually get in trouble. as crazy as that sound.
Right.
And then when I came to the United States and I learned, there's a Second Amendment that you can actually own and bear arms and you can protect yourself. And I'm like, where do I sign up?
Totally opposite.
Yes,
pretty much, right?
totally opposite. And I realized that you don't know what you're missing until you realize that you don't have it, And then you're like, so I think the Second Amendment is one of those things that empowers you as a citizen, But with that empowerment comes a lot of responsibility, right? And that is one of the things that I tell people: don't take that for granted. Most of the time, and around the world, rights are the easiest thing to take away from people.
Yeah.
Easy.
And we have a long world history of that happening.
And having rights back and reinstated into society is one of the hardest things in the history. So, around the world, most people fight for their lives, fight to have a right to protect themselves, fight for a right to say, hey, criminals are out there. They don't care about the law. They don't care about anything. I do. I need to protect my family. So what are we doing here? Are we really talking about taking rights away here? No. I'm not up for a second run of that.
Yeah.
No, because I did have the right, but back in Venezuela, people were able to own firearms. Well, the good citizens.
Yeah.
And that's not the case anymore. So,
wow.
I'm not up for a second run for that.
Yeah.
And anyway, I want to just touch something else. I just want to talk briefly about my seminars. The mental dynamics of target shooting. So it goes kind of along with my book, but this is a more depth about the mental aspect of shooting. Like I said, the technique is the same. We look for different books about shooting, and the technique is the same. But the way we think affects the way we apply the fundamentals. Even the way you feel, even the way you have your muscles strain, and all that affects the way you apply the fundamentals. And so in my seminar, I go to a process that helps you identify those things that you're doing when you go to the range. So when you are at the range, you're like, okay, wait a second, am I doing this? So how can I fix it? How can I go to that process of elimination and find and get back into what I need to do? I talk much about effective thinking. Most people talk about positive thinking, negative, positive thoughts and negative thought, which is great. Positive thoughts are good and everything, but positive thoughts is just a hope.
Yeah.
Effective thinking is a process, and I'm very up for that process into how can you get from point A to point B? How can I get you from training and wanting to be good to really be good. So, and I'm also donating 50% of my seminars to the Olympic shooting team, to the U.S. Olympic shooting team. That's my way to give back, not only the community with education, but I think that's a way to show that we all need to support each other in one way or another.
I love that.
That's beautiful.
Awesome. So check out Gabby Franco, GabbyFranco.com.
Yes.
And you can check out her seminars, where she's coming up next, what's on her schedule. Get a copy of the book, Troubleshooting. And Gabby, it has just been a pleasure to sit down with you for a few minutes today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
We'll have to visit with you again for sure. So, folks, coming right up in just a moment or two, you're going to be pleased to have an interview with Antonia Okafor of Empowered, and all the amazing things that Antonia is doing in our fight for Second Amendment and our rights that Gabby has just also so eloquently talked about. So stay tuned for that. We'll be back in just a few minutes.